Well, it's been a while since the last video, so I should probably explain what I've been doing. And it's just college, nothing too serious. Now, as I said in the last several videos, this means there's going to be a lot less time to work on these videos, of course. And if you couldn't tell, many of my videos are now just about other games and that I've played and reviews, and this is really just to save time. Once I get a break from college, there will be another review, so just hang in. Just hang on. But today's video is going to be a little bit different from the other videos so far. It's about Majora's Mask. You know, the video that just kind of got me started into making these. Now, much like the other Zelda games, Majora's Mask consists of a few key areas, such as Clock Town, Woodfall, Snowhead, Great Bay, and Icona Valley. Now recently, I put out a poll asking you guys what areas you guys wanted to see talked about first. And Clock Town won, I mean, go figure, it is the first. And there was a comment here that I'll display on screen if I remember to do it, and I agreed with them. And, you know, I just felt like Clock Town would be the best to start with. Now, in the world of Termina, Clock Town is the cultural hub of the region. It's divided into 6 subdivisions. Now, these subdivisions are not named anything crazy, just north, south, east, and west. And the laundry pool and the astral observatory farther out. Now, for the next 5-10 minutes, I'll be talking about each of these subdivisions and noting any observations and cool things I could find. So I think it's best to where we should start at, just a little bit farther back than Clock Town, in this weird area that may or may not be Hyrule. Before you're actually in Termina and the Clock Tower, you're in this like really odd area, which is sort of like the Lost Woods. You know, then you're inside a tree, which is most definitely a tree, and then you're under the Clock Tower and in the Clock Town. Before we move along, is there anything we can pull from these 3 areas? The Lost Woods, as I said in the original Majora's Mask video, looks a lot like the beta from Ocarina of Time. And what I find really odd about this area is that you can already find a Keaton bush here, which is something that's always confused me as a kid, since there's no way you can even talk to the Keaton here, because you won't be getting the Keaton mask till a lot later. The level design here is also really cool, I think. I mean, you can tell there wasn't a lot of thought put into this place, since you'll only be here once, and it kind of does show. I found this one slope that you can walk up, but you'll slide down. Besides the out-of-place Keaton bushes in the slope, there isn't much more that I found all that interesting. It would be nice after you beat the game you could come back here, and maybe mess around and like just mess around in this alternate universe. Now, it would be really cool if, following one of my previous videos, if Nintendo adapted lock-on technology for Ocarina of Time in Majora's Mask, so you could play the game in one long, cohesive experience, and possibly find your way back into Hyrule. Wouldn't that just be awesome? Inside the tree is probably the most interesting area so far. There's like a small bottomless pond that you cannot sink into, and I noticed in the cutscene when Deku Link walked right over he just walked over the water with no issue. So I had to check this out, and I never checked it out before, so I was pretty shocked that like it was just like this big glaring oversight. You can't even fall in it. You don't even like jump over it. There's these really weird starlights from the ceiling that I thought were really interesting to look at. Other than that, the first room is really only there to turn you into a Deku. The next 2 rooms are here to teach you how the Deku Flower works, and you also receive Deku Nuts here. Now this game does do a really good job of teaching you the mechanics, and of course, you find a dead creature in the game, the first one actually, the Deku Butler's son. It's too bad he was probably killed by a Skull Kid. What I want to know is how the hell did the Deku Butler get out of here? Since I feel like this area of the game is still Hyrule, and you'll know why soon. My theory here is that Hyrule is kind of mixed in of Termina, since there are Keaton bushes outside the tree, and also inside the tree, and they're also mostly in Termina. I think the twisting hallway is the Rubicon to say of entering and leaving Hyrule. I think the best way to describe this is in like Minecraft, with the naturally spawning nether portals, with the nether seeping out of the portal into the overworld. I feel like that's what this area is to Hyrule. It's like a nether portal in Minecraft compared to the rest of the world. Now once you leave this area, you enter the twisted hallway, and you are under the clock tower. Inside the clock tower it's pretty barren. A door will close behind you when this is now the point of no return. You see the mechanics of the tower, and there's a few cogs lying around, and there's a little underwater stream that powers the clock. And other than the Happy Mask salesman teleporting in, there isn't much left in this pre-section of the game. Outside of the clock tower doors awaits a whole new world. Clocktown, as I said, is the cultural center of Termina. Now, I may say this, and you may think, well, it looks pretty barren and unpopulated, to which you're correct. And we'll get to that later, though. Clocktown has 5 areas in it, as I said earlier, but technically there's 3 different phases for each of the 6. If you want to get into the real nitty-gritty of this, I'll explain. In this video, I'll be looking at each of the subdivisions, and on each of the different days, as well as the night version. Now, I'm not doing all 3 nights, but I'll be looking at differences in each subdivision each day, and the same for the days to an extent. You'll get it. For Clocktown, I'll be including a map, and it'll be clear where I'm talking about. I think it's best so we look at South Clocktown, Day 1. South Clocktown is the first area in the game where you are besides the pregame area. And it seems like just some pretty normal stuff. There's a little carnival being built, as well as a little tower. There is also a yellow Deku flower and a dog running around the area. There's an owl statue and a small pond. South Clocktown is how you get to any other area in Clocktown, besides one other place. You can also enter the laundry pool here. The laundry pool doesn't have much. There's a spare ferry here, and when you ring the bell, Cafe will come out and see what's up. There's also a frog here that will come back into the game later. The rest of South Clocktown is pretty basic. The exit of Clocktown here leads to Woodfall, and that'll be in our next episode. You can also enter the summit of the clock tower on night 3. I think South Clocktown is pretty boring, honestly. I think this may be the most boring area of Clocktown in general. There isn't much going on here, but at least you can get to any other area pretty quickly. I see South Clocktown as a town square since it's in the center, and it makes up the entire south side and the center of town. It's really like center square, and South Clocktown. I feel like it should be called Center Square, but they already had the other 3 cardinal directions, so they might as well just include south. Also, since this is a town, you'd expect to see some type of apartment or homes. And you don't see that in this area, but it has something similar in the next area, and there's some more stuff to do in the next area in the town. East Clocktown is more of a tourist area, I think. There's a few mini games you can play in. There's a hotel for tourists, and out of all the places in the town, this is probably where the tourists will reside, since there's a hotel. And mini games, and a milk bar. The mayor's office is also here, where you can learn that the town is usually much more populated, but since the moon is about to crash into town, it's pretty barren. From East Clocktown, you can also enter the observatory, which is one of my favorite areas in the game. There's a group of kids running around the town, and when you play hide and seek with them, they'll give you a code to enter the tunnels beneath Termina Field into the observatory. If you want to know more, check out the review I did a few months ago. You also must remember, to a first-time player, this is the first time they're looking outside to this new world, and it's pretty limited. The view is not that great. For some odd reason, there's dudes on top of pillars, and he's also in a bush. These people are not here when you actually go outside, so I don't know what to make of this. Maybe it's just placeholders. I'm not sure. I've never really heard this brought up anywhere else. I'll look into it for the next episode. In 4 months, Majora's Mask and fun facts. See you guys next week. No, I'm just kidding. Back in East Clocktown, the minigames are pretty subpar. There's a bomb gallery, which the minigames change based on the day, and they all involve explosives. The other minigames are the treasure hunt, which I hate, and the shooting gallery, which can get you a bigger quiver. The hotel here seems like an okay place to stay in. I mean, I'd probably stay here. There is a monster in the toilet. However, it doesn't seem like the rooms have their own toilet, so you're kind of stuck with the monster toilet. Also, there is no door in this bathroom, and there's no sink. So on second thought, I probably wouldn't stay here if I needed to use the bathroom. I'd rather go outside by the creek, also known as the laundry pool. In East Clocktown, that's really it. I think it's best we move on to North Clocktown now. North Clocktown is the smallest subdivision of Clocktown. There's a balloon you can shoot, a slide, a great fairy fountain, and even a Deku Scrub minigame. There's a cool event that will happen on night 1, but we'll talk about that when our nighttime differences start. When spoiler, there's not really many, so it's really only that. The great fairy here can be reassembled by the spare fairy in the laundry pool, and she'll give you magic powers. Overall, North Clocktown is very green and fun to be in. This has always been my favorite of the series of the places of Clocktown. I always thought it was very unique, and it felt like a public park. Tingle is also here, someone who I actually never mentioned in my visual review of the game. I'm kind of using this video as like a rehash, because I feel like my first review was so piss poor, so this is making up for how bad it was. I digress. As I mentioned the balloon earlier, when you shoot this, you trigger the first part of the main quest. When you see a kid attempting to burst a balloon at what seems to be spitballs, but if you shoot at it, it'll pop, and the kid will want you to play hide and seek after you just get blah, 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 blah. I watch your review. Our last spot is in West Clocktown, and I feel like you could describe this as the market area or a business side of town, or maybe even a financial district, since there is a bank here. There's a few shops here, like the Curiosity Shop, the Bomb Shop, the Swordsman School, the Lottery, the Post Office, and the Trading Post. This is where really all the business side of things in town are located. And I did mention there is a bank here that also breaks the flow of time, and it doesn't really make much sense how it works. Maybe another day I'll do a video about how the bank can break time and space-time. And West Clocktown's layout is also really unique, I think, shaped like a crescent, fitting with the moon. And it's on a slope downward. I've always really liked this layout, and it feels really lived in. Since the subdivisions I've talked about, I think it's time to categorize them based on their purpose in the town. So, South Clocktown is clearly the town square, or center square, whatever you want to call it. North Clocktown is the park side of town. West Clocktown is the market, and east is a tourist spot. Each part of town serves its own purpose, much like a real town. And I really do enjoy walking throughout the Clocktown. And it would have been nice if Hyrule Castletown was like this in Ocarina of Time. Compared to Hyrule, Clocktown feels like an actual town, and not just a lifeless area. My other issue of Hyrule Castletown is that it feels really fake. Now, the game does overlay like an image onto the geometry. Now, this isn't a bad thing. I'm not complaining about this. They needed to do this to save game space for other things, but it still takes away from the experience, and it feels really fake. Now that the basic overview of Clocktown is finished, I think it's best we start talking about time-specific events and differences between days that I want to talk about. We'll be talking about all of them. These are the ones I want to talk about. So I want to talk about the robbery on night 1 in North Clocktown. So Sakuran the thief is waiting behind a tree. This is at night 1, North Clocktown. Picture this. And at midnight, an old woman from the bomb shop is going to be importing bombs into the town. Now Sakuran will rob her, and you can stop him. Now this is the go-to big event I can think of for day 1, but I can also think of some others that include the postman talking to Angie. There's really not that much stuff going on. I feel like this game gives me an illusion of stuff really happening, but when I really sit down and think about it, there's not much going on. So I know that I just took a big dig on this game, but that's just how it is. But I think one thing of lore we can take from the lady importing bombs into the town, and that really shows us that Clocktown, they don't really export anything. They don't export like anything at all, it seems. If they're importing products into town just to sell, it seems as if they need to be big importers. Their GDP may not be that good. You know, they could be taxing the hell out of its citizens, and that's probably why no one really lives here. But, you know, there's also some more events. Like, the thing I don't really think of it's not really an event that I think it's good enough to really be classified as an event, since it happens no matter what, is learning the Song of Healing. Now, I don't consider it an event because you can only do it once and it doesn't repeat itself, but there's some other things I can, such as the reassembling the Great Fairy, seeing the postman talk to Anju, and seeing the girls dance in West Clocktown at night. As I said, besides those, there's not really much going on. Day 1 is the most calm out of the 3 days, since shit really hasn't hit the fan yet. The people here just have a really general feeling of unease. Since the moon is a lot closer than usual, that's really why they have a big feeling of unease. You can also find Guru in the laundry pool here at night playing his music box. Now, day 2, however, it really starts to pick up the feelings of dread. Day 2 feels like shit's getting close to the fan. It's not hitting yet, but you can kind of smell it and the fan's blowing it around the room. It's raining. The area in front of the clock tower is getting worked on more. The music is ever so slightly sped up, and you can feel a sense of fear in the townsfolk. Also, some townfolk are missing. They didn't get kidnapped or anything, they're just ditching town. This is probably a hint that being in the crosshairs of the moon is a good idea. Since people are missing, they look up, oh, there's the moon, we better leave. Somewhere in the game, it says that people are retreating to Romani Ranch. But I've never seen anybody there except for the people that live there, being, I believe, Cremia and Romani. So, they must have went to a different Romani Ranch. Maybe they went to Lon Lana Ranch. I don't know. Also, the location of the Lost Ferry had moved to East Clocktown, at night at least. Now, day 3 is where things actually hit the fan. Shit really does hit the fan here. Almost. It's like maybe 20 feet away, and it's traveling at 21 feet a second. Ooh. The music is sped up a lot. There's these ominous drones in the soundtrack, and the moon's also making noises, and everyone is leaving. The construction is almost complete, and the town is going to be destroyed, so I don't even know why they're working on this construction. It's going to be destroyed in 12 hours anyway. By nighttime, everyone's gone except for the foreman and the guards. The foreman is actually yelling at the moon. You can find people hiding about inside their homes and their shops. You know, they know their life is over, and there's nothing they can do about it. And as the moon's about to fall, you got 5 minutes left, and everyone you met's gonna die. And when you let the moon fall, you see this. You can skip it if you've never seen it, but I'll play it in full. Alright guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Nope, this ain't over yet. I gotta talk about some other stuff in this insane town that I noticed while playing. First off, where do people live? Now, there isn't really a lot of housing here. I feel like this town, I mean, I know the swordman lives in his dojo, but I can't think of anybody else. I feel like this is like a state college, PA type town, where not a lot of people live there, but when school's in session, there's a shit ton of people there. And due to the limits on the Nintendo 64, and some pretty clever plot workarounds, it's pretty empty due to the moon falling. I like how they factor that in so they didn't have to put a bunch of people inside of it. Second off, who is going to listen to this kid, this worthless kid, standing in front of the way into the observatory? No adult's going to be challenged by this kid, and I doubt that his secret society is endorsed by the mayor. So they're essentially squatting inside the town's observatory. Speaking of which, I never really talked about this observatory that much. There's this little, like, entranceway. It's kind of cool. It's like an underground secret lair. And you go up and you just see the observatory. And then I already mentioned you can look out the telescope. Third off, why does the clock tower just, like, fall apart on night 3? This makes no sense to me. The marriage takes place outside the town. So what the hell is going on here? This idea here just literally makes no sense to me. I don't understand why it happens, but I thought about it. I cannot think of a reason, so we're moving on. Also, where do the people here eat? Like, where are they eating? There's not really any restaurants here, or better yet, what are they eating? There isn't really there's no real agriculture areas around Termina. Great Bay has fish, and Romani Ranch has milk and eggs, but I don't know about beef. Now, I'm not a dairy farmer, but I had a great friend in high school who was. And he said you can't really use dairy cows for beef, because it's just the way the dairy cows are pasteurized, not pasteurized, domesticated. We're not going to be using dairy cows for beef. And since we know that Romani Ranch is a dairy farm, I don't see beef being an export into Clocktown. Speaking of exports, what is even driving the Clocktown economy? I assume they import a lot, as I said earlier, since there's a bomb shop. And in this game, and Ocarina of Time, just some Ocarina of Time lore seeping into this, but the Gorons like bombs, and in this game that's supported by the fact that they like powder kegs. Now those are just some small discrepancies, weird complaints I have with Clocktown. But overall, I really do like this place. It is probably one of my favorite Zelda towns. Clock Town will always be my favorite Zelda town. I think it's probably the most like lived in and interesting. Besides, I mean, not besides, it is. I think Kakariko from Ocarina of Time is a runner-up. Now, before you grill me in the comments for saying, "Oh, Summon of Twilight Princess was better," I've never played Twilight Princess. I've never played Wind Waker. The only Zelda games I've actually completed, and it's going to shock you guys. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Zelda 1, Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds, and that's it. That's it. So, just keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive into Clock Town. Next episode will be in Woodfall and the Southern Swamp. Make sure to subscribe and like this video, so YouTube knows I'm pretty good at this, and they'll recommend this video to others.